This video is sponsored by Ironweld, a cross-denominational miniature gaming event that includes seminars, events, and tournaments for a variety of different miniatures games and is being held on May 27th and 28th. More about them later in the video. What's up, folks? Welcome back to TacticalTortoise. My name is Trevi, and as you may know, I'm a big fan of tournament play. In fact, that's most of the way that I interface with the miniature gaming hobby, is organized play events, tournaments, and approaching the game from a competitive angle. And while I recognize that that style of game isn't for everyone, I do think that it's super fun, and I would love more people to go to tournament events. So today I'm going to be talking about Warhammer 40k tournaments, how you can sign up for one, how to prepare for one, and the kind of things you can expect once you get there. So let's dive in. Now we're going to go into a quick sponsor segment here about Ironweld, a new miniature gaming convention. And I do just want to give a quick shout out to Ironweld and the folks over at Wicked Dicey for just generally being awesome. If you are new to Warhammer tournaments and you're looking for a large tournament to go to, the events put on by Wicked Dicey are some of the best you can get to. They're well organized, and the community in the area is absolutely phenomenal. So it's highly recommended. Here's more information about them. Please go check them out. Let me get my crystal ball and call me a psychic, because I'm about to make a bold prediction here. Which is that if you're watching this video about Warhammer tournaments, you probably enjoy miniature gaming tournaments yourself. And if you're looking for one to go to in the next couple months, oh boy, have I got news for you. Because this video is sponsored by Ironweld, a new event run by the folks over at Wicked Dicey. Ironweld is going to be a cross-denominational miniature gaming extravaganza run on the weekend of May 27th and 28th. It'll have events and seminars for games of all types, including Star Wars Legion, MCP, Conquest, Battletech, Malifaux, and many more. But of course, the headliners are GT level events for both Warhammer 40k and Age of Sigmar. The Wicked Dicey crew put on Everwinter this past December, an event for which I streamed most of the 40k GT, so I can say with experience that the crew puts on some incredible shows, and Ironweld promises to be even bigger and better. This convention is even being held near my neck of the woods in Wakefield, Massachusetts. There's awesome access, good parking for folks who are driving in, and a lot of awesome local activities. So clear out the weekend of May 27th and 28th and check out wickeddicey.com/Ironweld to get your ticket today. So first off, the real question is, why go to a Warhammer 40k tournament? What is the appeal of this style of event? For me, one of the big draws is getting to experience a larger proportion of the game. You get to see more armies, factions, and units on the table at a tournament, even if you're not playing against each individual one, than you would at any day at your local game store. You also get to meet new people and play against people that you may never have had a chance to interact with outside of an organized play event. You also get a lot of games in. You're basically guaranteed 3 to 5 games depending on the size of the tournament that you register for. So if you're somebody who, typically only plays maybe 1 game a week, 1 game a month at a local meetup, going to a tournament and getting a ton of games in is a good way to not only just make use of all those miniatures that you've painted, but also improve your skills and learn more about how to play the game and how to enjoy the nuances of its mechanics. And with that, I think it's important to talk about those actual sizes of tournaments, whether it's 3, 5, or even 8 games, depending on the size of the event that you're into. An RTT is the smallest and most laid-back style of tournament. These are one-day events that usually just run over 3 games. You'll enter the tournament in the morning, usually play a game before lunch, and then hit a lunch break, and then 2 more games, and then be done. Go home, and it's a compact one-day experience. These are actually, I think, my favorite form of tournament for Warhammer, because they're a little bit more casually oriented. Not in that you don't see good games in them, but because they aren't a great expense or a huge commitment for players tend to kind of just play whatever they want or prepare new lists for more competitive play, which means you get to see a wider variety of armies. They're also not a huge time commitment. You're not shelling out 2 to 3 days in order to play a multi-day event. I guess I should mention as well, RTT stands for Rogue Trader Tournament. That's kind of a classic name for them, and I think that was a Games Workshop level of event that they used to run. And that's why it's called that. A GT, or Grand Tournament, is a 2-day event. These are usually with 30 plus people, and they're mildly competitive. You'll see basically a pretty even breakdown between people who are trying to win and get prizes and enhance their standing in circuits, and also people who just want to get 5 games in and kind of play whatever they want. These usually feel like kind of an RTT plus, I guess. You should be expecting to see more competitive lists a little bit more often, but also if you're, down around the mid tables, you'll kind of play against basically anything. A major or super major is the largest size of event. These are usually 1 to 200 players or even larger than that in the case of super majors, and they will run sometimes 2 days, oftentimes 6 rounds with 3 rounds per day, or they'll go to 3 days and play 8 to 9 rounds. This is the style of event that the US Open tournament series uses, and a lot of these large events like Las Vegas Open or Adepticon or Nova Open will be a super major level event. Because there's a lot of points and prizes up for grabs, these typically get pretty competitive, and players are trying to enhance their standing in the event in order to give themselves good placements on circuits, because these events are worth the largest amount. While with a greater proportion of players, there's also a greater proportion of less cutting edge lists. Oftentimes, these events are where you will see the greatest proportion of lists that are very powerful and players who are extremely skilled. So once you've chosen the event that you want to go to, how exactly do you sign up to it? Now, sometimes events, especially RTTs and smaller local events, will have in-person signups or their own sign-up system. Well, you'll go to their website or, PayPal them or something like that. These you'll have to discuss with your TO. I can't really give you any information about those. If you have any local Facebook groups or Discord groups, that's usually where you'll find events being posted. So if events aren't being listed on an aggregator like Best Coast Pairings or another partner of the channel, VoxLink, then you'll have to find out about them independently, and they all have their own systems. Finding an event on Best Coast Pairings is usually the easiest way to go about it, though. Best Coast Pairings has a sweet system where you can search for events localized in your area, so you can find events within a certain radius of you. All you need to do to sign up for an event is to create a profile. You'll just need an email address for this. Find an event near you in their event search function. Drop in your profile info. Once you've done that, go to player details. You can upload your list there. You can just copy and paste it from Battlescribe using the text export function and then paste it into the field in Best Coast Pairings and choose a pin. Some events don't require you to have a pin. These are so that people can't falsify your scores. But honestly, a lot of events just do away with that extra security measure. Because the event is small enough not to care so much, the TO has control over scores in the back end, so if you need to amend something later, they can usually do that for you. And the pin system's kind of a hassle. If somebody doesn't set their pin or forgets it, it can actually throw a kind of a wrench in the work. Within 24 hours of the event, you can go to this page and click check in to confirm that you'll be playing. Usually, that's all you need to do, but some events, especially larger ones, will have extra steps in preparing for them, including things like submitting lists ahead of time and a specific list due date. So now that you've signed up for a tournament, what exactly do you bring to that tournament? A painted army is the first one. This is the most straightforward. Most places require painting or they dock you for having unpainted stuff. The GT format in 40K right now takes 10 points away from you if your army isn't fully painted. This is a little bit of a controversial rule, but a lot of events do use that. Especially at the RTT level, it's kind of a coin flip whether or not you'll be penalized for having unpainted models. At the GT or major level, you will certainly need to have painted models in order to participate or to score your full amount of points. If they don't have that, great, then you're all set, but most oftentimes I would recommend that you have a painted army. Now you spend all that time painting, don't forget to have a method to carry that army around. Most players will use a tray or a trolley. The thing is that you're going to have to take that army out of its case and then throughout however many games you're playing, transport it from table to table. Your games won't happen all on the same table, so you need a way to move it around without dropping it. You can usually find trays and things at stores like Home Goods, or even just like a drawer works in a pinch. Oftentimes you'll find people using plastic serving trays as well. Basically any flat surface with lips on the edge so your models don't slide around is perfect. In addition, you'll need normal play stuff, things like objective markers, dice, and tape measures. These aren't provided by the event. This is a question I actually get quite a bit about players using event-provided dice, and while I believe that's happened in the past, it is extremely rare. 99% of the time, all of your play materials will have to be supplied by yourself. I'd also throw in here to have tokens and other indicators, especially if you have abilities that last more than one phase. Having a little token to put next to your model so you can remember that it's active, or that your opponents can see that whatever effect you've cast, whether it's a psychic power or a command phase ability, is in effect, that just smooths the game out, removes any contention, and makes it easier for both players. Rules reference is also important, especially if you're a little unfamiliar with either you or your opponent's rules, or even the core rulebook. Most people just have a phone with Wahapedia, and this is fine for like RTTs, but in larger events, you'll often need to bring a book hard copy of your army rules. Some people also bring Battlescribe printouts of their army list. I wouldn't do this. These are usually wrong. There are a lot of mistakes in Battlescribe, and people relying on Battlescribe as their rules reference sometimes get some things wrong, and that is unfortunate. Wahapedia takes direct rips from the book itself, so they are almost an exact one-to-one transcription of the rules in the codex, so I would refer to them if you need a digital source. Snacks and drinks are another one, besides yourself, of course. I know if you're a Tactical Tortoise subscriber, you are a snack. Hydration and feeding yourself is especially important. Tournaments are usually 10 to 12 hours stood on your feet over the course of a day and a little bit of walking around, and that usually can be tough if you're not hydrated. I always bring a water bottle and plan to refill it 2 to 3 times over the course of the day, and having some healthy snacks, things like nuts or granola bars, can keep you going over the course of a long day and really just make that last game much smoother to play. Sometimes if you're not prepared to play a couple games in a day, that last one you feel you're starting to fade a little bit, and keeping yourself hydrated and well fed is certainly a way to get around that. So that's all the materials that you need to bring, but what else do you need to actually prepare for an event? The first one is creating an army list. I've talked a little bit about Battlescribe in this video, and I have a tutorial on using Battlescribe elsewhere. This is the community constructed list building app for 40K, and while it's not perfect, being a community created system, it's kind of at the whims of whoever is creating the assets for it. So sometimes there's errors in there and things like that, but most often things are good, especially when it comes to the actual list building part with selecting war gear for your units and stuff like that. So before you go to a tournament, make sure you have your list in Battlescribe in a digital format or written out very cleanly in a document somewhere that you can copy and paste into Best Coast pairings. Once you have that list, you can do a final checkup to make sure you have all your models and tools before you leave for the event. There's nothing more embarrassing or annoying than getting to a venue after having driven however long to get there or taken public transportation or however you made it over, and then finding out that you're missing a model or you're missing your dice or something like that and having to scramble to find a solution or sheepishly ask the TO if you can use a stand-in or something. I always go through my case with my army in it with my list on my phone and just make sure I point to every unit in my army and make sure that they're all in there. Knowing your rules is an important one. You don't have to know every rule in Warhammer 40K, but you should at least have a solid grasp of what your own army does, so you don't have to spend too much time during each game looking up what your stratagems do. As an addendum to this, also, it helps to read the event packet. Sometimes events have special house rules, especially when it comes to terrain. Terrain is always kind of a nebulous concept in 40K because every single event will have slightly different terrain, and sometimes they have to make up rules to make that terrain operate in a way that the tournament organizer wants it to. They'll also oftentimes have FAQs for specific factions, so make sure you take a look at the FAQ for your faction for the event, and make sure that there's no rules in there that you may be playing wrong if you go there. It is a real feel bad when you try to use a rule or play a rule as written and your opponent tells you, oh, you know, it's not.
We don't do that here.
Visualize your deployments. Usually the terrain of an event is specified in their event packet, or they'll specify a format. We're using WTC format, we're using US Open format. These are all different terrain formats that you can find information for online. In fact, I think I'm gonna do a video about them. And if you know what the terrain format is, you can kind of spend some time before the event figuring out how your deployments will go, because your deployments will oftentimes be the same. And this is as simple as working out which ruins or buildings or whatever you have hide your units or give them cover or, you know, fit your units most optimally. Most of the time, your deployments are going to be pretty similar if you're playing on a set layout, and so it takes a lot of the thinking out of the game if you know where your units can generally go for each mission before you get to the table. At that point, you just have to play the game that's in front of you instead of having to create your game plan on the fly. And last, but certainly not least, is just getting there early. I try to aim 30 or 40 minutes before the first round begins. Let me tell you, that doesn't always go so well, and sometimes I'm scrambling in there at the last minute, but if you do get there early, it gives you lots of time to get set up and organized, put all your models out on your tray, so you're not scrambling when the first game starts and ripping things out of your case as your opponent's deploying. So we've diligently prepared for the tournament. How does it actually work? Once you're set up and at the event, what happens? Each round of a tournament, you will get paired with an opponent. This is usually indicated in your Best Coast Pairings app if the event in question is using it. If you have the app installed on your phone, you'll get a little ping and it will tell you what table you're at and who your opponent is and what their list is. And then you'll just go to that table and you'll play them. This is always a random opponent on round 1, and then later on is determined by tiebreakers. Usually, not always, but most of the time, you will pair with someone who has the same number of wins as you, and oftentimes somebody who has the closest amount of victory points. Every round, the TO will determine a mission that everyone will play on in that game. Usually this is specified either in the event description somewhere or announced beforehand or put in the event packet so you can reference it over the course of the event. You and your opponent will just meet up at the table you're assigned to play out, shake hands, say how are you doing, and then play a game. The games will usually have a time limit, so after you're done, whether that's at the time limit or if the game ends before then, you'll submit your score within the app. This usually just requires you to click on your pairing in the Best Coast Pairings app, put in each player's score, tell the app who went first for data recording purposes, and then whoever has the higher victory point number will win. That will usually move to a break between rounds, and then after however long the TO has allotted for breaks, the next round will be paired, you'll get another ping on your phone, and you'll go to the next table until the end of the event. At the end of the event, there's usually an award ceremony for players lucky enough to get prizes. This is a good opportunity to thank the TO for taking their time to run the event. Most of the time, these people don't get any money for this or aren't, paid or remunerated in any way, so they're just doing it out of the goodness of their heart. This is also a good time to talk to your opponents about how their games went. Usually people will just hang out and mill around and have a little discussion with each other after the end of the event. And then, once the prizes are given, that's it. You're free to go, and it's time to wait for the next one. So that's kind of a dry recital of how it works, but what should you actually expect at a tournament? So it's time for a bit of a story time. When I first started 40K in 8th edition, the community had a little bit of a bad rap, especially when it came to competitive events. So I came totally ready to fight someone. I was totally ready for there to be, that guy sort of win at all costs styles of players who would try to use rules loopholes against me and would be playing only the most cutting edge technology. And I kind of came prepared to also be that guy in the universe where that's what the tournament community of Warhammer 40K looked like. And honestly, I was totally wrong, and I'm really glad that I was. I rocked up to my first event. My opponent was playing a very good list, but they were extremely laid back about it, and they helped me through the game and got to a close enough score, largely thanks to their help and with rules assistance, that I did tank their ability to win the rest of the event because their tiebreakers weren't that good. I don't feel bad about that at all. Don't play Eldar Flyer spam maybe next time. So the myth of that guy who is there to ruin your tournament experience is largely overblown. Communities, especially at the smaller event level, will typically self-regulate that style of player out. One of the reasons that RTTs tend to be so laid back is that a store oftentimes has control over who it allows to be in its community. And if you have someone who's making the game miserable for everyone else, even if they're not cheating or doing anything overtly bad, they're just being a relatively toxic player and kind of annoying to play against, those stores will often just eject that player or prevent them from playing in organized play events. Speaking anecdotally, that's happened several times around my area, where players who are miserable to play with will just not be allowed back. Players who are very good at 40K and are at the upper echelon of this competitive scene are usually confident in their own abilities to win, that they're not relying on skullduggery or cheating in any way to win their games, because they don't need to. Well, there's always the occasional misplayed rule in competitive 40K that's probably never going to go away as long as the game remains as complicated as it does. Actual poor sportsmanship and cheating basically doesn't happen very much at all. It's a pretty big deal when it does these days, and I think that's a great place for the community to be. So you can expect that most people are there to have fun. It is a small proportion of the community who are there to beat their opponents and win games, and even those people are also there to have fun too. Now, we also talk about metagame a lot, with players who are highly skilled or highly enfranchised in the game playing these hyper-tuned, optimized armies that are extremely powerful. And in reality, this is basically only the top 20-ish% of players, or at least players trying to get to that level. The vast majority of the rest of an event will play the vast swath of other armies that are available in 40K. And we do exist in a bit of a golden era where you can kind of take anything to a tournament and you still have a chance to either do well or win. So this players playing, these kind of cookie cutter lists that they've taken off the internet, or lists from sub-factions that are extremely powerful, are very much the minority. And while there's maybe a slightly greater chance that you'll play against those particular lists than anything else in the game, they're still outnumbered by the majority of the rest of the game that isn't at that upper echelon. So you don't typically need to sweat like tacking for the metagame too much. Mostly if you're playing relatively solid units and you know what they do, you're going to be in a pretty decent spot. The other thing to keep in mind is that because pairings after the first round are done using tiebreakers, even if you're new, after the first 1 to 2 games, you'll usually find yourself paired with players of your same skill level, since your tiebreakers will usually be similar to other players in the same bracket. So there's no need to worry about winning every game at your first event or matching up with the best things in the game, because oftentimes you'll find that your toughest games come later in the tournament when you hit players who are of the same skill level and can match you move for move. That's when 40K gets really cool and exciting, and that's when most of the learning occurs. If you're playing somebody who is of that same level and you and your opponent are both kind of speaking at the same conversational tone from a gameplay standpoint, you'll find that your ability to understand the moves that are happening on the table is exponentially increased, and that becomes a great learning experience. But basically, over the course of a whole tournament, you can kind of just expect a concentrated injection of Warhammer 40K directly into your veins. You're going to get a bunch of games in, you're going to talk to a bunch of people, and you're going to have a great time, especially if you're there just to get games in like basically everyone else at the tournament is. So if you're new to 40K, I hope this video inspires you to check out a tournament locally and talk to your local players about getting involved in the competitive scene. And if you are looking for a tournament to go to, don't forget to check out our sponsor for this video, Ironweld. Ironweld's local to me. It's going to be a super awesome event, and I know the event organizers are very committed to making it incredibly good for every game, not just Warhammer 40K, but every game that's being represented there. They put on Everwinter this past December, and it was incredibly fun, so highly recommended. So with that, let me know down in the comments section what you think about playing in tournaments, if there are any preparatory pieces of advice that you thought I missed, and whether or not this has inspired you to go to a tournament. I hope to see you on the battlefield at some point in the not too distant future. But until then, big thanks for watching all the way to the end of the video. Big thanks to everyone who supports the channel, either over on Patreon at patreon.com/TacticalTortoise. There's also YouTube channel members, Twitch subscribers. All those people are great. Big thanks to Wicked Dicey again for sponsoring the video, and I'll see you in the next one.